Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Triad News 360 for March 20th, 2018. I'm Maximilian Thomas.
And I'm Sydney Goldberg. Tonight we will be focusing on the gun issues in societies across the world. Gun violence has shaken the nation in recent months.
The number of mass shootings has increased drastically. In 2017, there were 345 recorded mass shootings.
It was the deadliest year of mass shootings in modern U.S. history.
And now, in 2018, there have already been 30 shootings resulting in deaths. The most recent mass shooting took place on February 14th at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The tragic shooting took the lives of 17 people, both students and faculty.
Tonight, we will be taking an in-depth look on guns in our society and seeing why people are calling for change.
And later, we will be talking live from people from Australia, Denmark, and Canada to get a more worldwide view of how people feel about the guns in their neighborhood. But first, the latest school shooting happened at 7:45 this morning.
2 students were injured, 1 critically conditioned by the shooter at a Great Mills High School, about 60 miles southeast of Washington, D.C.
The school resource officer exchanged fire with the shooter. The resource officer was not hurt, but the shooter had been reported dead at the scene.
The school is on lockdown and the event is contained according to St. Mary's County Public School website.
From coast to coast, students walked out of class on March 14th to demand stricter gun laws and a historic show of political solidarity.
The walkout from high school was in part a tribute, in part protest towards victims whose lives were cut short at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The walkouts began at approximately 10 a.m. and students protested for 17 minutes, 1 minute for each of the 17 people killed.
The internet has become extremely important for the millennial generation to share videos and news across the country. With the recent shootings, social media has played a huge part in this movement for stricter gun control. Spreading the word about gun control and a demand for change was organized online from students for students.
All over social media, videos, pictures are being shared to raise awareness for gun control and a demand for change. Posted on these social media platforms were pictures of the signs protesters were holding. Some read, "I want to read books, not eulogies." "Girls' clothing in school is more regulated than guns in America." These signs are so powerful, and because of social media, they are getting the recognition they truly deserve.
Indeed, but through all of these powerful messages, there is some controversial movements as well. A 6th grade teacher suggested that her students walk up, not out. She suggested to her students not to walk out of school, but instead to walk up to a fellow student in need.
Her idea received national attention with the hashtag walk up, not out. But a lot of people were disappointed because she was taking attention away from the important walkout movement done by students. Here, we see posts from all over the world on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram flooded the platforms, each with their own perspective on how to make their voices heard.
This Twitter post reads that activists placed 7,000 pairs of shoes in front of the U.S. Capitol building on Tuesday to remember the children killed by gun violence since the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre.
Or this post showing that even whole children networks are paying respects for those that have passed.
Everyone showed their passion for this issue and did so in their own way, supporting the safety of current and future students. And it looks like there are a lot of young people demanding there be a lot of changes in the future of their country.
When we come back, Triad News 360 went to the streets to ask people their opinion on guns in their classrooms.
But after the break, teachers in training should be allowed to carry firearms at work. We'll be right back.
Littering is a problem that is slowly destroying our Earth, one piece of trash at a time. $11.5 billion is spent each year cleaning up litter among the United States. Cigarette butts account for 50% of all litter in America. Be responsible with your trash. Wait till you're near a park or gas station to safely throw away your trash in a trash can. We only get one planet. Stop.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Breaking news, this is, joining us in the studio is Emma DeMeo, and a student at High Point University training to be a teacher in our current society, and they're going to be asking questions on whether or not what their concerns are during these shooting times.
With Martha Stride, a senior education major here at High Point University. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My first question for you is, how has the constant string of gun violence affected the development of your major?
I think over the past 4 years we've seen such an increase in school shootings. It's obviously something that was prevalent for us in high school, but with every school shooting, you're constantly worried now, especially that I'm at my own school, student teaching, that it's going to be your school next. You are constantly living in fear and how to protect these children's lives. And I think that takes away from the educational process because the kids are worried about it too. They hear stories about people coming in and shooting each other, and they're worried it's going to happen to them, and they don't really understand why. And it's hard to explain it to them because a 9 or 10-year-old's not going to understand.
Absolutely. And stricter gun laws have been replaced with the idea to arm teachers. And how do you feel about that? Do you think that would solve any problems or just make it worse?
I think it would just make things worse. I think it's kind of trying to take a big issue and just fighting it back with something that's already caused such an issue. And people have been using assault rifles and such, and that's not the type of things that teachers would be armed with, so it's not even going to be compatible, and it wouldn't make children feel safe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Sydney and Max, back to you.
Have you read about the Supreme Court decision that gives all Americans the right to own guns? Probably not. The Second Amendment gives Americans the right to own guns for personal self-defense.
The Supreme Court would have a major say in the rights of gun laws, right? Both sides of the gun issues are arguing to their highest courts to their sides.
And since the tragic shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, the Florida legislature passed its gun control bill.
The new Florida law states that you have to be at least 21 years of age in order to purchase a firearm. Also included in the bill, there must be a 3-day waiting period or a background check done in order for the customer to purchase a firearm.
The gun lobby, led by the NRA, has filed a lawsuit against the Florida law saying it violates the Second Amendment. Other states like North Carolina have followed Florida's lead and passed similar bills.
So that brings up the question that is swamping the internet. Should teachers be allowed to carry guns in school?
The argument is that teachers with a gun might be able to respond quicker to a person with a gun in the school than it takes for the police to arrive at the scene.
Should teachers in the United States be allowed to bring firearms to work in order to protect themselves and their students? Would it make it safer? Would they even want to? Triad News 360 asked teachers and students their opinion on whether or not guns should be allowed on school grounds.
My opinion is that teachers at college level or high school level should not be armed with weapons, because if you have students who are aggressive, they could have access to the gun belt because you're going to have to carry it. Or if you have a teacher who gets aggressive with an administrator, there could be violence in that way. Or if a parent comes in and attacks a teacher, you could have a shooting that is totally unsubstantiated.
The first thing that comes to mind is a tweet that I saw, which was someone said something like, those of you that think professors should carry guns in classrooms, like, have you ever seen a professor try to set up a PowerPoint presentation? Because that doesn't typically go well. So I know I'm not well equipped to carry a gun, and I don't want to be held responsible for my students' lives in that manner.
So I think the walkouts in the high schools today were a really important thing for students to be able to show like what's important to them and how their lives have been impacted from all the recent shootings.
I think that the walkout was probably effective in places where it was prominent, but I do feel like the lack of social media outreach was kind of negative with the impact on that.
So Max, what have fellow students been telling you about how they handled the gun issue?
Well, Sydney, it's been really very evasive. Every time I ask one of my fellow students or somebody in high school or somebody just outside, they are very evasive to the question. I'm like, they never really commit whether or not they, gun control should be a little bit more stricter, or if some people should not hire, but some people should buy guns and bring to school with them as teachers. It's a very controversial issue, and people just seem to duck it a lot.
I totally agree with you. Now, joining us in studio is Triad News 360 reporter Jennifer Brammer with a student who is presently at a college. Jennifer?
Thank you, Sydney and Max. Joining me now is Emma Creech. Thank you for joining us. My first question is, do you think teachers should be allowed to carry weapons onto school grounds?
I do think teachers should be allowed to carry weapons if they are well trained and willing to do so.
Do you think that teachers should be allowed to carry weapons onto school grounds?
Yes, I do if they are well trained and willing to do so.
What is your opinion on gun control? Do you think the government needs to change its gun laws?
Laws aren't going to change criminals' minds. What we need is better enforcement of the current laws and for people to pay more attention to mental health issues.
Thousands of students took to the internet demanding change and even organizing school walkouts to protest gun laws in our country. Do you think this will have any effect on the government's decision regarding these recent demands for change?
Sadly, I think a lot of young people don't understand the realities of government interference. And if the local and federal law enforcement had done their jobs in Florida, the shooter would have never had a firearm and would have never been on the property. So I think that the kids really don't know what they're talking about, and they aren't well informed on the topic, so they're just kind of following the trend on Twitter and just walking.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Emma. Back to you, Sydney and Max.
Thank you for coming to speak with us, Jennifer.
And after the break, we will be live from Australia and Denmark.
And a live guest from Canada to ask how their countries view the gun issue.
We'll be right back.
How am I going to pay for this?
Littering is a problem that is slowly destroying our Earth, one piece of trash at a time. $11.5 billion is spent each year cleaning up litter among the United States. Cigarette butts account for 50% of all litter in America. Be responsible with your trash. Wait till you're near a park or gas station to safely throw away your trash in a trash can. We only get one planet. Stop.
Welcome back to Triad News 360. I'm Maximilian Thomas. Joining me live in the studio is Triad News 360 reporter Erin Hubner with someone from the north of the border. Erin?
Thank you, Max. Joining me now is Grant Hickey from Canada, a student at High Point University. Thank you for joining us. Let me start off by asking you, what's the biggest difference between being an international student coming from Canada to the United States regarding gun control?
Well, when I first came to the United States, all of my friends in Canada and internationally all told me that the one thing I should look out for is guns and doing anything that I'd regularly do in Canada. Like oftentimes I'll borrow my friends' cars and I'll drive around, and every now and then I might accidentally honk a horn when I usually would in Canada, but I shouldn't do that in the United States. There have been a couple occasions when I've accidentally honked the horn and I've been pulled over by the person and they tapped on my window with their gun out and threatened me.
What are laws for guns, like gun ownership in Canada?
Well, with gun ownership, we have household laws where when you're getting a gun within your house, you have to have somebody come to your home and they have to check your house. You have to have a certain type of lock. You can have your ammo and you can have your gun in 2 separate places, locked away, and you can only be of a certain age, and you can only be able to get a gun if you pass through certain tests.
Now, do you ever worry about guns in Canada like you do being here in the United States?
Honestly, I don't. Even at High Point University, I know students who go onto campus with concealed guns, and people in the streets I see often with their concealed weaponry. In Canada, for sure, we had a lot of school shooting preparations and whatnot, but in the United States, oftentimes I actually fear for my life when I go to certain areas or talk to certain people.
Now, you're a criminal justice major as well, so how do you feel about being a criminal justice major and seeing all these recent school shootings?
Honestly, I don't know why they're coming out so frequently nowadays, but I find that it might be some kind of a new fad, and I don't understand why many students go off to their schools and end up shooting them up. But I honestly think that we have a serious mental health issue that is causing these people to be unrecognized and as a result to take the actions that they're taking.
Now, you said you feel a lot safer in Canada with the way Canada has its gun laws. What do you think the U.S. should do to fix theirs to be a more safe environment like Canada?
Well, the thing with that is that there's so many guns in the United States that if you just got gun laws and told everyone that you can't buy anything, there's enough guns to man every man, woman, and child in the United States. So effectively cutting it off isn't going to do much. You have to find a way to get rid of the guns and make sure that it can't get into the hands of people who are buying them for people who legally have them.
Thank you so much for joining us, Grant.
Throughout the world, each country is different. Gun laws, gun control gun laws. In Australia, they have gun laws that seem to be working quite well. In 1996, 35 people were killed in a terrorist attack now known as the Port Arthur Massacre. It was a turning point for Australia. Their government agreed to enact gun laws banning all semi-automatic rifles and shotguns, weapons that cause devastating outcomes. Let's head over to Sydney Goldberg for some more from Australia. Sydney?
Australia also put more hurdles between prospective gun owners and the weapons they wish to purchase. These hurdles include a 28-day waiting period as well as a justifiable reason to own a gun. Joining us in studio is Triad News 360 reporter Makita Johns with a live guest from Down Under. Makita?
Thanks, Sydney. Joining me now is Lydia. It is 7 p.m. here on the east coast of the U.S. What time is it there, Lydia?
It is 10:20 a.m.
Thank you so much for that, Lydia. Do people in Australia worry about having to carry guns? Thank you so much for your input, Lydia. We definitely enjoyed you today in studio. Thank you.
Thank you, Makita. In Denmark, the Danish government has strict gun laws that are closely regulated, with only 12 out of the 100 people owning firearms. Anyone who wishes to own a firearm must submit to background checks, provide a legitimate reason for owning a gun, and must be entered into a law enforcement database. Joining us in the studio with a live guest from Denmark is Triad News 360 reporter Sean Wrinkle. So basically, currently in the United States of America, gun laws have also been really big, controversial segment, either to report about, to talk about with friends.
Thank you, Max. Joining me live from Denmark is my dear friend Casper. We're having a little technical difficulty. We'll send it back to you, Max.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much. So it appears that we're having some technical difficulties here at the office. I'm like, it's not the only controversial topic that we're currently having at the studio at the moment. So thank you, Sean. Much appreciated. So thanks for joining us here at Triad News 360 as we explore the issues of guns in our society. So join Triad News 360 on March 1st for more on gun issues, when we will be live from England and Denmark, along with students studying to be teachers. For now, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for tuning into Triad News 360. I'm Maximilian Thomas.
And I'm Sydney Goldberg.
Good night, High Point. Much appreciated. You're